Hey, good evening, everybody. The Wide Shot is back, and we're back to, they got me to do it again. I know we took some time, but this show was so big. We're doing an NXT reaction because this was an unbelievable show. A lot of stuff to break down with this NXT Homecoming special. Want to remind our fans, too, we will have our next live show. Usually our show's out Friday morning. We're actually going to be live at Greeny Sports Cards. They're having a convention center here locally, here in Northeast Ohio, out of Broadview Heights. So we're going to be live on this channel, Kyle and I, starting at 11 a.m. this Saturday. It's a big day of wrestling, of course, of AEW All Out. A lot of our attention will be on WrestlePalooza and all the stuff going into that. So again, join us live Saturday morning, 11 a.m. right here on this channel. We'll bring that to you. So we're going to be live, I think from 11 to 1, we'll be on live from Greeny Sports Cards. All right. This show is unbelievable. And I think this is NXT Homecoming is something I think you could run back yearly. And it would not surprise me if, you could do this on the regular TV show on the CW. You could have this as a pay-per-view or PLE event next year. So I think it's pretty cool. It's a novel concept. And NXT as a whole has had such unbelievable success at what it's supposed to do, which is develop new talent. In the alumni class of NXT is at a very high level that you can run this back, incorporate the legends, the alums with the current roster, and I think you'll get some great results. And it's a good balance between, hey, we're going to honor the past and still move forward the stories that fans are watching week to week on NXT and with all the other stuff going on. So I think overall as a concept, NXT Homecoming is a slam dunk. I was excited. I told Kyle, I'm like, yeah, for 1 week, I'm going to do a reacts for NXT Homecoming because this could be the show of the week. Even though Raw last night was fantastic. NXT Homecoming could come through. All right, let's go down. I really don't have any dislikes. When I say that, we do things we like, things we didn't like. When I say that, that doesn't mean, oh, this is the greatest television show of all time. I'm not saying that at all. But if I could sit through 2 hours and be pretty entertained and stories move forward, I dig. Let's go in reverse order of the show, just because it's fresh from memory. So the show ends with Trick Williams, Obafemi. They pretty much make it official. Ava's in the backstage. Former NXT General Manager William Regal's back there. And I like throughout the show, the commentators, Vic Joseph, Booker T, they sprinkled in comments after it was announced on the Grayson Waller effect that this unification match was going to happen next week. They sprinkled in, TNA talent's not too thrilled, not too pleased. And I love that they actually showed tweets from NXT stars. We saw how Mike Santana reacted, his reaction. We saw Moose, his tweet. And then the other great thing, you actually go on social media, you actually go on Twitter, you can actually see everyone who works at TNA pissed about what's going on. We saw Matt Hardy, who's a TNA wrestler. We saw his comments. It should, I wish they did more of this. It should piss people off that your world championship is not on your show. That should piss people off. And you should take it a step, and maybe they have been on TNA programming, but, that's a loss of income, loss of paycheck. That's when you're not a world champion, you don't get the champion's purse. There's little things like that that I want to see driven home. Like, hey, we don't gotta like each other or anything like that, but the fact that our top title is not here, we don't eat. It's those little things like that. So I love seeing, and um, it puts a pin in my head that, you know what? Don't go into next week expecting a clean finish. At least, see, when Raw had like 2 or 3 straight months of non-clean finishes, it grew tiresome because it seemed lazy. This is not lazy. This is, we're setting up a major angle. In a way, you're like, wait a minute, why are they doing a major unification? Like, Obafemi and Trick Williams is the biggest men's singles match you could deliver right now in NXT. It's the biggest one that you could deliver. And I know NXT on the CW is a little bit different from Raw and SmackDown, where sometimes on the CW, you do need to deliver big matchups and big main events. And they're going to here, but you're delivering this mega match days before your PLE. So I like this wrinkle. I like that the TNA wrestlers are going to show up next week. TNA talent is going to show up next week and cause a fuss. How will that tie into things? We'll see. Ricky Saints, who's supposed to be the number 1 contender, I mean, technically he still is. Does that become a triple threat match at No Mercy? Does it become does it still, I don't envision there being a winner. That's what I'm getting at for next week. But how much involvement will TNA have? We'll just have to see. All right. Probably the most memorable part of today's show was the Devil's Kiss. In fact, it was so good. I watched it live. I'm laying here. I'm like, oh, and it clicked. Like, oh my God, Booker T's calling a Stephanie Vaquer match. Okay, all right. Be ready. Booker had a great line too. He was like, when it was a few minutes prior when Stephanie was getting ready to set it up, and it didn't happen. I think JC Jane jumped in. Somebody jumped in from Fatal Influence, and Booker's like, I can feel it in my bones. Great call. Booker, who I've had massive complaints about on commentary since I've been watching NXT full time over the summer. For once, I could say he was pretty good tonight. Might have helped that, the big boss, Triple H, is in the building, and need to be on your P's and Q's and actually listen to your play-by-play guy and actually follow the directions of Vic Joseph and do the research and pay attention to the product. But maybe having the alum there kind of helps too. The match was great, and then, of course, again, like we mentioned before, I watched The Devil's Kiss live. I like the camera, how it was positioned, where you see Booker on the side, you see Vic fanning, you see the fans looking at Booker, and for once you see Rhea and Stephanie point at Booker like, okay, this is not the screen anymore. This is, we're home. Stephanie doesn't get that reaction. Michael Cole ain't doing that for her. Joe Test may show enthusiasm. Michael Cole ain't giving you the corporate call. That was cool. And then I watched it again and, actually watched The Devil's Kiss with Rhea and Stephanie. And this male viewer is very happy with what he saw. This male viewer was very appreciative of what he saw there. It was just great flexibility, and I'm going to shut up now. The main event itself was fantastic. And it's amazing, too, to see how over Rhea Ripley really is. You can make the argument that Rhea Ripley is WWE's biggest star. Her reactions everywhere she goes, every show she's involved with, actual screams from the crowd when she pops in on the television. And I've had complaints for weeks about Triple H in terms of when you're not being utilized in a story, that he's not putting you on television. Rhea Ripley technically doesn't have a story. She's in a holding pattern until we get a winner at with Io Sky and Vaquer, Stephanie Vaquer. Rhea has not really been involved with a story in the last month. But Triple H puts her on television backstage, and the crowd goes nuts. Let's talk about a few other things. NXT Homecoming, again, great show. Great show. Great show. Finn Balor. Some of the stuff we've seen is actually significant. We saw certain guys bring back their old entrances, the old music, like Johnny Gargano and Ciampa, bringing back their own stuff like the NXT I watched. Oh, man. Finn Balor, him doing his entrance, the way he did it, very significant. Not just, it was cool to see on the NXT side. Pay close attention to, to see how the Judgment Day, how he reacts within the Judgment Day and stuff. He's finally, he's been teasing doing that entrance for a while on the main show. He comes home, he does it. The fans at Full Sail almost were like, are you going to actually do it? They were a little hesitant, you kind of tell. And then he actually did it. It was great. It was great. I didn't realize how much I missed it. I did not realize how much I missed it. That was effing cool. There was a time in our business where Finn Balor was the hottest thing going. There was a time. There was also a time that for like 6 straight years, he said he was the first ever Universal Champion. Finn's in a much better place now, but you see, sometimes, he's doing well in WWE. He's doing well with the Judgment Day. But he was the man in NXT. That's why the Homecoming concept is actually really cool, because you can see how certain wrestlers were doing okay in NXT, and then they thrived in WWE. And then you see certain wrestlers who were the absolute S word, absolute beast mode in NXT, and then they're doing okay in WWE. Or, in certain cases, they did really well in NXT, and then they're going beast mode in WWE. So it's on the main roster. So it's really crazy to see. Miles Bourne, Josh. Can I say this about Josh Briggs? I know that was Lexi King. So that was King, Miles Bourne. Josh Briggs has really impressed. Didn't care for him earlier in the summer. He getting that real heel heat. And his promo work as a heel has really, really, really impressed me, to be perfectly honest. And we talk about it on the show all the time, on the main show. And Kyle mentions it a lot. The best heels are the ones that are delivering a message rooted in truth. And Josh Briggs, over this past summer, talking about how can people support this guy? How can they support that guy? I've been around here 4 years. Why are they supporting this kid, Javon Evans, who I think will be the next biggest star in WWE? You mark my words. Javon Evans has the it factor to be the biggest star in WWE in a 15 to 20 year span if he can stay healthy. Josh Briggs is doing an unbelievable job. So I love that. The Grayson Waller effect, I usually don't care for Grayson Waller, but I noticed, I don't know if he always has done this, I noticed they showed a shot. Oh, there's an IG video from his phone. So Lord behold, I went to my phone. I don't follow Grayson Waller on Instagram, but I typed up his name, and I see there's a live on the circle. And I watched the segment on Instagram Live while I was on YouTube TV, and only a minute delay. I thought the delay would be a little bit longer. Only a minute delay. between the live action on IG and YouTube TV. It was actually pretty cool. And Ricky Saints delivered. He delivered. We finally, he talked about his background. He talked about working in a performance center. I love the fact that he talked about his opportunity. He wasn't denied of his opportunity. Being denied of your opportunity doesn't mean that it's dead. I love that. It was just delayed. I love that. Man, you're rooting for him to win. But there's so much other stuff going on that by the end of the segment, Ricky didn't really shine because there's other stuff happening. He was kind of put in the back burner. But I do want to acknowledge the promo that Ricky delivered. I thought he did a great job. Quickly, a couple other things. Again, I'm going in reverse order. DIY, Trick and Mello, great match. The finish carries over into SmackDown with Miz helping Mello. We kind of see. Again, full admission, I did not watch SmackDown this past Friday. I have it taped. I'm going to watch it tomorrow just to catch up. But that story continues. And a great build last week, get people invested and stuff. And then the opening women's match. Again, the amazing year of Charlotte Flair continues, where she's getting cheered, things like that. Alexa Bliss, great to see her. They did a great job. Great opening match on that front. And a lot of good stuff. Show opens, of course, with Triple H. It has to. I talked out the show about how Triple H is the leading man for everything. Again, to be fair, he did lead NXT. A million different ways you could have took that open. They did a fine job. Start with Triple H. Shawn Michaels comes out. William Regal comes out. The War Games line, you do get that. The only thing I wish we would have got, and maybe he's not available, I would have liked Cody to be on this show. Again, I can't blame any active roster people, but I would have liked Cody to be on this show on behalf of his dad, on behalf of Dusty Rhodes. I think if Cody Rhodes would have been on this show, we would have received the full circle tie-in with NXT. Dusty Rhodes meant a lot to that program, and really, attitude-wise, set the standard for everything, including, especially women's wrestling. I know there's other people backstage, of course, that's helped out with that. And, Triple H. Again, I say this with Triple H. His Q rating is at a high level right now. So he may be all over the place. TKO is positioning Triple H to be the next Dana White. But the fans have not turned on Triple H because his Q rating is at a high level. But yeah, that would be, golly, if there was any complaint, it was give a call to Cody, see if he'd come on this show, have him tie in Dusty Rhodes. That's it. It's a minuscule complaint, but that's what I was thinking. Man, that would have really pulled it all together. And then finally, how about the open? How about that show open? A lot of Bayley. That was my first thought. I was like, a lot of Bayley in that show open. But that show open did a great job. With everything. We acknowledged the Four Horsemen, but we're not going to mention Sasha Banks by name, but we do acknowledge it. Sasha Banks was not in that opening package. Paige was on that open, and others, so you do have that. Ember Moon was mentioned on television. So not here, conspiracy theories, because Sasha Banks has been mentioned on television before. So it's not like on WWE TV very recently. So it's not like, but she wasn't on the video package. So that's that. Okay, listen. Raw was great. NXT was fantastic. Can AEW tomorrow sell me on AEW All Out? To this point, I haven't really been overly impressed with AEW. So can they bring me to the dance? That's their job tomorrow, is to bring me to the dance. I know last week, stuff happened here in America. And for me, certainly that kind of impacted my viewing. Well, this week, we're back. Can they get us back in with AEW Dynamite? They have to come through. There's no other choice. They have to come through because, and we're going to talk Saturday again. We're at Greenie's Saturday morning, 11 a.m. live on this channel. AEW's got to give us something to talk about. Like, we're going to have a rundown. A lot of the rundown is going to be WWE related. And I'm more open to it. Kyle, you lost him. So, you got to get me to give Kyle something to talk about with AEW All Out. Because right now, it ain't much. And if we're not liking the way WWE is handling business with Saudi Arabia and raising ticket prices, you need AEW to be at an elite level, pun of the name. They got to be there. If not, those WWE fans are going to be fans of nobody or independent shows. I don't know. So, we'll have to see what happens with that. All right. I went way over. This was a great show. Check it out. And that's that. Okay. That'll do it. I'm probably not going to do a reacts for AEW, but I'll let you know. You'll know if I liked it or not. If I really loved it, I'll do a reacts. If I really hate it, maybe I'll do a reacts. If I'm indifferent, I will definitely not do a reacts. So, we'll see. All right. You guys, probably by the time you see this, it'll be Wednesday. So, you guys have a great rest of your week. And that's that. I don't have a special close. We're done. Have a great night, everybody.